Welcome to Guns Gear Network, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I wanted to show you this little method I use for painting sights. A lot of the firearms we get, especially in the small concealed carry, they may not have the exact sight picture you'd like to see. A lot of times they are just solid black, and I want to give you a few tips and tricks to really paint them and do a really good job at it. It's just a matter of a lot of people don't have, and it's not a whole lot of stuff you need to do it. But the first thing, let's talk about paint for a minute. A lot of people try using what I call model car paint or site specific paint that you can buy. Best thing to use, what I found, is actually spray paint. And the reason is because a lot of the paints dedicated to painting sights or model car paint, stuff like that, in my opinion, is too thick, so it's hard to manage. It gets clumpy, it's hard to put on the sight and things like that. So normally what I do is I just start out with a good quality Krylon or something like that, to Rust-Oleum, and pick and then decide what color. I typically go with more of the satin color, so I don't get any reflection or shine when I'm trying to get a sight picture. It's kind of more of a muted color. And I simply just shake the can really vigorously, shake it up well, and a lot of times I'll just use the top of the can lid, and I'll just spray paint into this area until it's like in a puddle. You can spray it on a little plate or something like that if you want to, but I found this just makes it easier. When this dries out, you can just still use the lid. And but anyway, make sure that your inside of here is very clean. Take a wet paper towel, clean it out real good, dry it, because you don't want any lint and little pieces of trash getting in your paint, because that will show up pretty good. So what you do is you spray it real good in here after you clean your cap, get you a little puddle, and then the best thing to paint these sights with, I found, is toothpicks. So you'll just simply dab it in there and use that to put on the paint. Another thing that's helpful is if you can find yourself a jeweler's loupe. I did a review on these actually not that long ago. I bought a set of these for, like, I don't know, $3 or $4 from Harbor Freight. And what I did was I added a piece of elastic to it, so I could actually put it around my head and hold it on one eye, hold it against one eye. I also have a handheld loupe here that this is like 30 magnification. So this is harder to use because you have to hold the firearm, unless you can put the firearm in a vise or something. But I found that it's easier to manipulate it by holding the firearm in one hand and then utilizing this with the other. Couple of little tricks I'll show you, and I'll show you a couple of firearms I recently did. This one I've done a few years ago. And if you look, these sights are very plain. They're just black on black. The front is barely even there. It's not raised real high. And if you look now, I can get a good sight picture because of that white on the end. You could white out the back if you wanted. I find that I typically just like a white front. Kind of up to you. Then I did this one last night, and everybody knows that this M&P Bodyguard, the sights are black on black. They are adjustable, but they are a real pain to see. Now, the good thing about the M&P, and it may be hard to pick up in this camera, but this section here to here actually is grooved. So that does two things. It cuts down on glare. It's part of the reason they do that to the top of sights. And then, so it's not just one slick, shiny surface. And then also, because it's grooved, it actually holds paint really well. So, and it gives you makes it easy for you to get, to stop it at certain lines. So, once you do it, and do it a little at a time, and kind of build the paint. Once you dab it, you'll just, what I do is I normally take one finger, and I put against the firearm here, and it steadies my hand to be able to do fine work like that. So make sure you got something, because if you're just out here trying to do it like this, you're all over the place. So normally what I'll do is I'll stay. Painters that used to do old school pin striping and stuff on cars, they'll a lot of times put a finger or something to stop them from shaking or moving around. So you'll dab in the paint, like I said, a little at a time, and then start working it on. Now, the good thing about paint, it's removable. So I actually messed this up probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and I just simply wiped it off with a paper towel. If you wanted to use some mineral spirits to clean it completely off until you get it exactly like you want. Don't get too wrapped up about, it being perfect, but I get that kind of way myself, a little anal. So it took me about 3 or 4 tries to get it right. Sometimes I had a little too much paint. If you let the paint, once you put the paint on, don't start messing with it, because it gets tacky because it starts to dry and it starts to actually thicken up, and you'll actually mess up the paint in certain areas, and then it'll be messed up totally. So once you get it wet and start putting it in, once you get it set, just leave it. Now, you're going to accidentally sometimes get too much paint and it's going to run down the side or something like that. Just leave it alone. If you're happy with the actual surface area here where the paint is, and you got some that runs down, don't mess with it. Let it completely dry. And I forgot to bring it down here for the video, but what I use is an X-Acto knife with a real sharp point, and then I simply go in here and under my loop, my jeweler's loop, and then I just start scraping off the areas. Once the paint is dry, it'll scrape right off and not damage the area you've already painted. So then you can kind of clean up any mistakes you made in case the paint run down or something like that. But if the main purpose of not doing anything is not damaging this while you're doing that, because this, once everything's completely dry, I can then use maybe a toothpick tip, or I can use that X-Acto tip and get the rest of that paint that's kind of messed up, in some areas that's spilled down or run down. I can get that off just fine with no issues. Just keep that in mind. But if you look, that's got a really nice sight picture now because of that big white strip that I have at the top. But painting, I've tried the paints that they're specifically for painting sites. I just don't like it. I found the best method is just using this, because it is a thinner paint. You might have to put it on a little bit in some layers because it is thinner to get the right coverage, but that's what I use. Also, what I do is it's called flash drying, or you blow on it to help set the paint a little faster. And what happens is, like even when I did this one last night, the paint was maybe a little thicker or a little area here, and when I blew on it, it actually, because it's thinner paint, if you catch it before it starts setting up, it'll actually run. If you blow it in the direction you want more paint, you can actually blow it into that area and get it to smooth out on its own. Blowing it actually pushes the paint down, and then it'll actually sometimes self-level, it's called, where the paint just kind of levels into all the area the way it should. But anyway, just wanted to kind of bring you this little quick tip on how to paint front sights. It's not that hard. Like I said, the beauty of paint, it's removable. Get you some mineral spirits and maybe a Q-tip, and then clean it all back off if you don't like it, if you messed it up. Like I said, I cleaned this one off 2 or 3 times last night before I finally got it right. But like I said, this right here, I used to carry this pistol all the time, and it's been in my holster and in and out and to the range and everything, and the paint's still there. Doesn't have any problems. This side here was a little harder because it didn't really have a lot of area to contain the paint. So what I did is I took blue painter's tape and taped off so it wouldn't get everywhere, and kind of use that as a guide. But kind of use your imagination. Like I said, the main thing is do it in small sections with a toothpick, and being able to control it very easily. But don't use brushes and things like that. And like I said, I stay away from the actual paint for sights. It's way too thick for me, and it's hard to manage, and it gets clumpy, and it just doesn't look smooth and nice. But anyway, guys, just thought I'd give you this little helpful tip. If you got any questions or anything like that, you can post those below. Be glad to try answer them for you. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up. That's always appreciated. It's over in that section. If you would like our content, it's over in that section. If you hadn't subscribed to the channel and you'd like to, please do that. That will let you know when we have new videos posted. And when you hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell beside of it over there. That way you'll get all our notifications when we send up another video on YouTube. As always, guys, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll bring another video shortly. Have a great day.